There's a strange kind of silence showing up in people's lives lately. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind. The kind that sits in your chest, quiet, but weighty. Like a room you live in but can't describe. Everything looks okay. You're working, you're showing up, you're doing the work. But something's off. More people are in therapy than ever. More people know the language. More people are healing, publicly. And yet, a growing number of them, quietly, feel stuck, tired, heavy, still miserable. Not explosively miserable, not chaotic, just flat, dull, drained. And that raises a question most people don't ask out loud. If healing works, why does it never seem to end? This isn't an attack on therapy. It's not a criticism of trauma work. And it's definitely not about blaming people for wanting help. This is about something else. Something quieter, more systemic, more structural. Because at some point, healing stopped being a process and became an industry. Therapy didn't just go mainstream. It became background noise. It's in every podcast, every app, every HR policy, every influencer caption. We talk about inner children like we talk about breakfast. We reference trauma responses in traffic. We diagnose our friends and ourselves in casual conversation. That might look like cultural progress, but it came with a strange side effect. As therapy became more common, resolution became more rare. People stopped talking about getting better and started talking about managing forever. Here's the turn that's hardest to notice. Therapy became part of identity. It used to be about confronting pain. Now, for many, it's about living inside it. You're not just someone who went through something. You're someone made of it. You're not someone recovering. You're someone who is a recovery. And slowly, the idea of being done feels suspicious, almost selfish, almost dishonest. What happens when healing enters a subscription model? What happens when progress becomes profitable? You don't need a villain. You don't need malice. You just need one thing: incentive. Therapy exists inside an economy, and economies aren't optimized for closure. They're optimized for continuity. Long-term care plans, recurring billing cycles, endless frameworks to explore. Again, that doesn't make therapy evil, but it does mean the system subtly rewards staying inside. This is how it happens. You come in hurting, you open up, you begin to analyze, you learn the language, you identify patterns, but slowly your attention fuses to the pain. You become fluent in your symptoms. You become articulate about your wounds. And in that articulation, a loop forms. Because attention reinforces. What you name, you stabilize. What you rehearse, you revive. Instead of pain dissolving, it becomes better understood and more permanent. Not because therapy failed, but because introspection has no natural off-ramp. Imagine staring at a wound every day, documenting it, studying it, discussing it. Eventually, you can describe it perfectly, but it hasn't healed. In fact, it might be slower to heal because you never stopped touching it. That's the trap. People don't get stuck because they aren't trying. They get stuck because they never step outside the process. More awareness, more reflection, same weight. Here's the part people are ashamed to say. They feel guilty for wanting to move on, guilty for craving normalcy, guilty for not wanting to mine their past forever, guilty for wanting to live like nothing's wrong. So they stay, they go back, they repeat, not because they need to, but because stopping feels like betrayal to themselves, to the people watching, to the community that told them healing is always in progress. There's a line, and most people never feel when they cross it. Healing is movement. Maintenance is repetition. Healing says you're getting closer. Maintenance says this is forever. And most people, without realizing it, slide from one into the other. They're not crazy. They're not broken. They're responding to a system that never says, you can stop now. This isn't just therapy. It's everywhere. Burnout, loneliness, chronic self-help, even relationships, all follow the same cycle. Pain becomes a product, then it becomes identity, then it becomes something to manage, forever. We don't heal inside the system, we cope. And coping, long-term, is exhausting. Healing doesn't always require more work. Sometimes it requires permission. Permission to let the story end, to stop rehearsing, to stop explaining, to stop fixing what's no longer broken. Not denial, not avoidance, just trust that maybe you're already okay. You are allowed to be done. Say it again. You are allowed to be done. You're allowed to say, I've seen what I needed to see. I've felt what I needed to feel. I'm ready to live differently now. That doesn't erase your trauma. It doesn't cheapen your work. It doesn't mean you faked it. It means it worked. Here's the final tension. Systems built on continuation fear completion. Not maliciously, just structurally. Healed people don't stay in the loop. They don't need new labels. They don't need new content. They don't need to watch every video. They just live. And that's harder to monetize. What life after healing might look like. Let's imagine it, not as fantasy, but as a possibility. You wake up. You don't feel the need to diagnose your dreams. You go outside. You don't narrate your nervous system. You hear silence and don't rush to fill it. You stop proving you're okay because you simply are. Not perfect, not invincible, but no longer rebuilding the same foundation every morning. That's not regression, that's restoration, and it's closer than you think. So let this be said clearly. You're allowed to feel light again. You're allowed to want peace more than process. You're allowed to outgrow the language that once saved you, because healing was never meant to be where you stay. It was the place that showed you the door, and now you get to walk through it. You're not broken, you're not behind. You might just be closer to done than anyone ever told you.